This is live from New Delhi. You're watching DT India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and coming up in the next hour, European Union lawmaking is set to get more complicated. Parliamentary elections offers up a mixed picture across the continent. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party is all set to unveil its manifesto today. Opinion polls suggest Labour Party ahead. Modi cabinet ministers taking charge in their respective portfolios. Major ministries unchanged. New faces join in. Boost for allies. Regional balance maintained. 15-member Indian rifle and pistol team for Paris Olympics announced. Team has 8 shooters in their rifle discipline and 7 in pistol. European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen has been trying to piece together a coalition after the far right made gains in the EU polls despite centrist parties holding their ground. Von der Leyen's European People's Party has gained seats, but to secure a second 5-year term, she also needs the support of a majority of the European Union's national leaders. With 400 seats, parties backing her in the 720-member parliament has reached the majority, albeit by a narrow margin. The EU Commission chief is now expected to reach out to Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni for her support. Meanwhile, the poll results came as a severe blow to French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, whose parties trailed behind the far right. And French politicians from the left and the right are scrambling to organize their campaigns for the snap general polls, which are under 3 weeks away. President Emmanuel Macron calls for the lightning elections after a disastrous performance by his party in the European Union parliamentary elections on 9th of June. DD India's correspondent Ross Cullen reports for more.
The French president has taken a huge gamble in calling this snap general election, taking place in just 19 days' time now on the 30th of June. He is hoping that his party, Renaissance, can claw back some of the seats that it lost in the last general election just 2 years ago in 2022. But all eyes will be on the performance of the far-right party, the National Rally. The polls were correct in terms of their performance on Sunday the 9th of June in the European Union's parliamentary elections. The polls said they would get around 30%, and they did that, getting 31% and landing the greatest number of seats to be sent by France to the European Union Parliament in Brussels. The surveys that will be coming out in the coming days, polling the French electorate for who they are going to vote for and why, we'll be paying close attention to those, because they will be able to say if the National Rally has cut through at a domestic level in the way that it cut through in the European Union election campaign. Emmanuel Macron has a lot on his plate internationally. He is trying to drive the accession talks for Ukraine to join the European Union as quickly as possible. He has just announced in the last few days that fighter jets will be sent by France to Ukraine, and he is always discussing with colleagues across the region and also in the Middle East about the need for a ceasefire and the release of all the hostages in the Israel-Gaza conflict. So he has this presence on the international stage, but back here at home, he is in a weak parliamentary position. Before he even called this election, he is hoping that his situation does not become almost untenable if the National Right win the election. Ross Cullen in Paris, reporting for DD India.
And now we are joined live by Alex Kadir from Brussels to give us the inside track. Alex, thank you for joining us. Now, we do know that von der Leyen, she needs to secure a qualified majority from the 27 EU bloc and also a majority in the 720-seat European Parliament. But she's trying to secure her clout, but it looks a little tough under current conditions.
Well, it was always going to be tough. In fact, throughout this campaign, the odds of Ursula von der Leyen being successful in this felt smaller and smaller. One senior EU diplomat saying it's about a 70% chance that she would get the member states on board and 50-50 that she would get the parliament on board. But this election result actually falls in her favour. Now, one of the main criticisms of Ursula von der Leyen is that she had been too hardline on migration and that left-wing parties were maybe less eager to help her facilitate a second term. Now that, and certainly the shift to the right in the European electorate, would suggest that it looks more likely that she will be the next European Commission President. She will secure a second term. We've heard rumours behind the scenes that France is getting ready to declare in favour of Ursula von der Leyen. That would be a massive, massive boost for the outgoing European Commission President, because, as you said, you need the nomination of the member states, and it's looking good for her in Parliament as well.
Okay, but having said that, far-right parties have made big gains this time around in the European Parliament, and also at the same time that has rattled traditional powers, including France, causing severe blow to the president himself. But what could be the reasons attributed to these inroads made by the other side?
Well, with European elections, it's always difficult to find individual reasons because you have 27 different elections effectively in 27 different member states. Some of the key issues, the cost of living was a big issue. We've seen that throughout this campaign. Migration remains a very big hot button issue for those far-right parties who talk about migration almost constantly on the campaign trail. And in a different way, particularly for European farmers, green policies and bureaucracy and red tape when it comes to new environmental policies have been a big source of frustration for farmers, some of which are associated with far-right parties as well. You will have remembered we reported here on DD India of the farmers' protest tractors across the city of Brussels, bringing the city to a standstill. Very vocal in that campaign. Those key issues. Now, it doesn't mean that the far-right will be able to govern. That seems very unlikely. What it does mean is that they will be able to influence for the next 5 years.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Alex, as of now, for joining us. We, of course, are tracking the story big way. Thank you for joining. Meanwhile, there are reports that protests are taking to the streets on Monday in Paris following the results of the Sunday's EU Parliament elections, in which Marine Le Pen's far-right national rally party has secured or scored big wins. Videos that you see right in your screen surfacing on the social media show protesters marching, torching, and the torch being thrown and police chasing demonstrators down a street, a scene of complete mayhem, it seems, complete chaos. RN has won 31.4% of the European Parliament vote, while French President Macron's Renaissance Party coalition has secured only 14.6%. Shifting focus to UK elections, United Kingdom will head to polls on July 4th, and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party is all set to release the manifesto today, that is Tuesday, and his party has promised further tax cuts during the election campaign and is expected to be included in the manifesto. Sunak promises financial security, quote unquote, to voters, as opinion polls show his party way behind the opposition Labour Party. But on Monday earlier, Sunak said he had not considered resigning following mistakes in his election campaign.
We've been dealing with COVID.
Prime Minister Sunak, and in fact we are joined by Ollie Barrett, my colleague from London, to tell us more about how these elections are panning out. Ollie, so hello there out there. It's good to see you and thank you for joining, Ollie. Sakal here. Now, Prime Minister Sunak's Conservative Party's agenda has been unveiled for the government on Tuesday. He has promised some kind of financial security. That's what he keeps talking about. And also he says the opposition Labour Party can never provide. That's a strong pitch. Is this cutting ice with the electorate?
Hi, Sakal. Well, all of the polling suggests that nothing really the Conservatives have done in the election campaign so far has been cutting any ice with the electorate at all. None of the polls seem to be budging in favour of the Conservatives. But that is nonetheless the argument that the Prime Minister is going to be making as the Conservatives launch their manifesto. One of the reasons that it's difficult for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to make that argument is that his party has been in power in one form or another for the last 14 years, and the opposition Labour Party will point to any difficulties in the UK economy and they will say that they are the blame of the Conservative-led government. It's also difficult because just today we've had the latest labour market numbers from the UK economy, and they don't make particularly pretty reading. Unemployment is at its highest level for over 2 years now. Wage growth is strong, but that may well mean that the Bank of England can't cut interest rates as soon as it would like to ease some of the pressure on households and businesses up and down the country. So all of that makes the economic arguments that Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is making today difficult for him to land. That said, he will insist that the Conservatives are putting forward tax-cutting pledges that the Labour Party won't be matching. They've made accusations that the Labour Party's plans aren't fully funded, aren't fully costed, and would lead to tax rises. The Conservative manifesto being launched today is a potential major moment in the campaign. That's what Conservatives hope, at least. They hope this is a moment that things can start to swing in their direction. But as I say, all of the polling from the election campaign so far suggests that everything the Conservatives have been trying up to this point is not really making much of a difference.
Okay, that exactly leads to the question, and I think that his message has failed in a way to start closing the gap with the Labour Party. You spoke about the tax cuts. That's one of the rallying points in these elections, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. And again, that is what makes this so difficult for the Prime Minister and his supporters. One of the things that we expect to see in the Conservative manifesto is a pledge that if the Conservatives get back into government, they will cut the national insurance tax on earnings by a further 2p in the pound. That's problematic in one sense, which is that the Conservatives have made 2 previous cuts to national insurance just over recent months, and neither of those made much difference to the Conservatives in the polling, in the minds of the electorate. So some Conservative supporters will say, well, why do we feel that this one will make a difference when the previous times we have done this, it doesn't seem to have helped us much with the voters. But the Conservatives are nonetheless trying to make it a major dividing line in this election. They are trying to present themselves as the party that wants to cut taxes and is cutting taxes, and they want to portray the Labour Party as a party that would put taxes up. Now, Labour would deny that characterisation, and as I say,
Ollie.
Labour would also point at some of the difficulties in the UK economy at the moment and say that they are the fault of the Conservative government.
Okay, one quick question before I leave you there, Ollie. He's clearly stated that resigning is something he hasn't considered, but he's also agreed in a way mistakes in the election campaign, quote unquote. So that's very interesting. And what's the inside track on that?
Very interesting. It is astonishing, really, for the leader of a political party, the Prime Minister of a country, to have to say during an election campaign that they are not considering resigning. But he did acknowledge that those mistakes that were made last week on the election campaign, which involved leaving D-Day commemoration in France earlier than some other international leaders, were a mistake, and he shouldn't have done so.
We'll leave it there. Many thanks, Ollie Barrett, for joining us from London on the elections there. Thank you. And still to come on DT India News Hour, this is what we have for you coming up next. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets his Israel's opposition party leader Yair Lapid in Tel Aviv. Ukraine's post-war recovery conference begins in Germany. And India participates in the BRICS foreign ministers meeting in Russia.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Thanks for staying with us on DD India's News Hour. I'm Sakil Bhatt, and let's move on. The Israeli military has said on Tuesday that 4 soldiers had been killed in southern Gaza. And as per the army officials say, they were killed in an explosion set off in a building in Rafah. Meanwhile, sirens warning of possible incoming rockets attacks sounded in the northern port city of Haifa. Israeli air forces struck over 35 targets in the Gaza Strip over the past day. The targets included buildings used by terror groups, weapon depots, as well as cells of terror operatives. Meanwhile, United Nations Security Council has adopted a resolution endorsing a US-backed ceasefire proposal that aims to end the Israel-Gaza conflict. The proposal sets out conditions for a full and complete ceasefire, the release of hostages held by Hamas, and the exchange of Palestinian prisoners. 14 of the 15 Security Council members voted in favor of the US-drafted resolution, while Russia abstained. Also, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israel's opposition party leader Yair Lapid in Tel Aviv on Tuesday to discuss the ceasefire proposal outlined by Washington. The White House says that Israel has accepted the ceasefire deal, although Israeli officials have not formally announced it yet. Blinken has also urged Hamas to accept the ceasefire proposal outlined to end the West Asia conflict, to which Hamas is ready to cooperate with mediators. Sarah Coates joining us live from Tel Aviv for more on this. Now, first, Sarah, hi out there. United Nations Security Council proposal on Gaza, it clearly sets out these conditions for a full and complete ceasefire and release of the hostages held by Hamas, including the exchange of Palestinian prisoners. Can this really increase pressure on both sides to respond positively on the plan?
Hello there. We do have some breaking news. Reuters is reporting that Hamas has now agreed to this resolution. This is a spokesperson, Sami Abu Zuri. He says that it is now up to Washington to ensure that Israel abides. But we do need to remember here that we still haven't had any formal acceptance there from the Israelis, although Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, he was actually just speaking a few moments ago right here in Tel Aviv, asked about whether Israel would in fact go with this resolution. He says that he has been guaranteed by Israeli officials that that will happen, although, as I said, still no formal answer on that. But this is certainly something that will be dominating conversation around the Middle East today. Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, he's also visiting Jordan and Qatar. We do need to remember here that Qatar is a key mediator in all of this. So while there is a lot of hope that these two warring parties may actually be able to come to some sort of an agreement here, until this is really put in place and activated, then there is still, of course, a lot of pessimism.
Pessimism, right. What more can you share with us as far as the latest situation in northern part Haifa is concerned? The reports of clashes, and it really looks bad out there.
Certainly, the situation in the north is escalating. It is deteriorating over the past few hours. Hezbollah says that it launched some 50 rockets from southern Lebanon into Israeli territory. And this, of course, is causing a lot of concern here in Israel, with this unprecedented situation really piling pressure on the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I was actually up there in the north a few days ago, and it is an extremely concerning situation. There are also some 60,000 internally displaced Israelis who are unable to go home given the dire security threat. And this is one of the other reasons that the US Secretary of State is here in the region trying to get this ceasefire into play, with the Biden administration really hoping that if this happens, this could also put a lid on the situation in the north and stop it spiraling into potentially a larger regional war.
All right, Sarah, thank you for those inputs. Thank you for joining us from Tel Aviv. Thanks. And shifting focus to some more news, German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier has received Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at Berlin's Scholz Castle on Tuesday ahead of the two-day-long Ukraine Recovery Conference. Now, in a message on a social media application, Zelensky says that measures concerning Ukraine's energy sector shattered by Russian air attacks would be the priority at the conference. Zelensky would also hold talks with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. His talks with the German Chancellor would focus on continued military support, including air defenses and joint manufacture of munitions, and the coordination of positions ahead of the peace summit to be hosted by Switzerland later in the week. The Biden administration will lift its ban on allowing a controversial Ukrainian military unit to use U.S. weapons, the Washington Post reported on Monday, citing State Department officials. The State Department reversed a decade-old prohibition on the Azov Brigade from using American training and weapons after a new analysis found no evidence of human rights violations by the unit. In a statement obtained by the newspaper, the State Department said, after thorough review, Ukraine's 12th Special Forces Azov Brigade passed a lengthy vetting as carried out by U.S. Department of State. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that transitioning towards a new world order will be long and challenging. Leading a BRICS foreign ministers meeting on Monday, they agreed on enhancing strategic partnerships and issued a joint statement. DD India's Dasha Shernashova reports from Moscow on the discussions.
Speaking to the foreign ministers of the BRICS countries in one of Russia's oldest cities, Nizhny Novgorod, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the BRICS expansion is a vivid example of a multipolar world order establishment. He accused the US of trying to hamper this process by using economic tools to maintain its dominance. Lavrov also said that the BRICS countries are actively working to develop a platform for settlements in national currencies. It is the first time that the BRICS foreign ministers are meeting in a new expanded format after Egypt, Iran, the UAE, Saudi Arabia and Ethiopia joined the group in January this year. According to Russian Foreign Ministry, the sides have agreed on a joint statement and several bilateral meetings were held on the sidelines. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said Beijing was ready to counteract external threats together with Moscow. Lavrov thanked Beijing for not taking part in the Swiss conference on Ukraine. The situation in the Middle East was also on the agenda, with Egypt's foreign minister discussing humanitarian aid to Gaza and the crisis in Sudan with Lavrov. On Tuesday, over a dozen more countries will join the discussions in Nizhny Novgorod as BRICS is working out the modalities of partner states. Dasha Chernashova in Nizhny Novgorod reporting for DD India.
Shifting focus to BRICS, India has participated in the BRICS foreign ministers meeting in Russia on Monday. Senior diplomat Damu Ravi led the Indian side at the BRICS foreign ministers meeting. In a joint statement, leaders have exchanged views on major global and regional issues. They reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening the framework of BRICS strategic partnership under the three pillars of cooperation, politics and security, economy and finance, cultural and people-to-people exchanges. The ministers called on the international community to seek collective answers to global and regional challenges and security threats, including terrorism. Brazil continues to battle its worst wetlands fires since 2020. Experts are concerned as the wildfire season has started much earlier this year. DD India's Nick Harper sends us this report.
Well, it's the sheer scale and size of these fires in Brazil that has experts worried. The fire season would normally get underway in July and then increase during the course of August and September. We've already, though, seen it rage during the course of this early part of June, in particular in the Pantanal wetlands region of Brazil. Experts are saying that fires have increased nearly tenfold so far this year, now reaching their highest level since 2020. Satellite data on top of that also showing a 980% increase in the number of fires compared to this time last year. It is a huge area of wetlands, about 10 times larger than the Everglades here in the United States, in the state of Florida, and of course is home to vast amounts of biodiversity and animal species. Scientists say that they've seen lower rainfall levels over the course of the last year, and that has of course left the region much more vulnerable to fires. We've already seen the Brazilian government working with state governors. They have declared an environmental emergency and now doing all they can to try and get these raging wildfires under control. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
In other news, US federal agencies said on Monday they have restored full access for commercial maritime transit through the port of Baltimore after the removal of 50,000 tons of debris from the March 26 collapse of the Key Bridge. The US Army Corps of Engineers said a survey on Monday certified the riverbed as safe for transit. The fully operational channel will allow two-way traffic. The cargo ship Dali crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in March in Baltimore, killing 6 people and paralyzing a major transportation artery for the US Northeast. And now let's take a look at other stories that are making news around the world. According to the Russian ministry, Russia and Belarus have started second stage of joint nuclear drills. The drills are aimed to ensure the protection of sovereignty and territorial integrity of the two nations amid threats of potential wars. Elon Musk will ban the use of Apple devices at his companies if the iPhone maker integrates OpenAI into the operating systems. Citing it as a breach of security, the Tesla CEO posted on his social media platform X. Singapore Airlines has offered compensation to the passengers who were on board the day its Singapore-bound flight hit turbulence, which claimed 1 life and injured many. Taiwan officials arrested a former Chinese Navy captain who illegally entered the Taipei harbor. Officials suspect he could be probing island's defenses, an example of China's grey zone warfare tactics. And still to come on DD India News Hour, coming up next, some news from India. Post-elections, Telugu Desam Party Supremo Chandrababu Naidu is set to take oath as the Chief Minister of the South Indian state of Andhra Pradesh on Wednesday. The Bharatiya Janata Party Legislature Party of Odisha will hold a meeting on Tuesday to elect the Chief Minister of the state. And the Supreme Court of India on Tuesday issues a notice to the National Testing Agency seeking a response to the plea.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, DC.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times. Jaipur.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and before we move on, let's do a quick recap of the headlines we're tracking for you at this hour. European Union lawmaking is set to get more complicated. Parliamentary elections offers up a mixed picture across the continent. Modi Cabinet 3.0, ministers taking charge in their respective portfolios. Major ministries unchanged, new faces join in, boost for allies, regional balance maintained. And in some sports news, 15-member Indian rifle and pistol team for Paris Olympics has been announced. Teams as 8 shooters in rifle discipline and 7 in pistol. And let's go back to our top story on this hour, European Union elections. And you know that the lawmaking is set to get little more complicated with these parliamentary elections, also offering up a picture which looks like a mixed bag of parties across the continent representation. And we do know that the European Commission chief, Ursula von der Leyen, has been trying to put everything together as a coalition, and after the far right made some good inroads in the EU polls, and despite the centrist parties holding their ground in their respective positions. Gulshan Sachdeva, Professor Gulshan Sachdeva from School of International Studies in Jawaharlal Nehru University, joining us on this broadcast. Professor Sachdeva, thank you very much, sir. So how do you look at the big picture, and how certain and how uncertain do you think is Ursula von der Leyen's second stint?
Well, I think she has a pretty good chance to be elected again, because what we have seen in these elections, as you know, the way the European Parliament elections, take place, all political parties from all 27 countries, they are affiliated to 7 groups within the European Parliament. And over the years, no political group has been able to achieve majority. So basically, you have issue-based coalitions. But still, if you look at the results of last couple of parliaments in the EU, basically you have 2 groups: European People's Party, which is many of the conservative parties like CDU from Germany and many others, they are part of this group. Then you have the second largest group, which is the socialist group, where many of the socialist or labor parties from different countries in Europe, they are part of this group. Similarly, you have a group like Renew, where you have like Macron's party, many centrist kind of groups are there, and then you also have Greens, and then you have 2 groups, ECR, which is basically the European Conservative and Reformists, and also the Democracy and Identity group. So it means these are the groups where many of the, I would say, the far right political parties, like President Meloni's party, Brothers of Italy, and also Marine Le Pen's party, and the Polish Law and Justice Party, and many. So there are broadly these 7 groups.
But these far-right parties that are making inroads, major inroads, and rattling the so-called traditional powers, like you mentioned, France. Is this a new trend that you see in these elections?
Well, I mean, the far right has always been there in the European parliaments. Definitely this year they have made more significant gains, and there has been certain setback for particularly for Greens and also to the Renew group. But overall, what you can see, the EPP, the European People Party group, and then you have the Socialist group, the Greens, and the Renew group. All together, they have roughly about 60% of the seats. And if you look at the far right, these 2 groups, ECR and ID, and also some of the political parties like, the Alternative for Germany or Fidesz in Hungary, they are not part of any group, but altogether, I think they have gained something around 150 seats. So they have made significant gains. But I think what Ursula von der Leyen was saying, the center has been they have been able to hold. So, hopefully, I think they'll be able to put together a candidate and the EPP has been the largest party. They have even gained a little bit more, and she has been the front-run candidate from the EPP. So she has a, I think, very good chance of being re-elected again. But still, we do not know, because some of the members, even from the group, sometimes they do not vote collectively. So there could be a bit of trouble. But I think at the end, there is a strong possibility of her being re-elected again.
And how do you see Macron suffering a major defeat?
Well, yes, definitely. I think he has really suffered a humiliating defeat in this particular European elections, because what we have now is, the Marine Le Pen's party, she got something around 32%, and his party was just about 15-16% votes, and there are another 6-7% vote by another far-right party in France. So obviously this is a big setback for him, and also his Renew group has been very, a severe setback for the group as well. So as a result of that, immediately, basically, he has dissolved the National Assembly, and then the snap poll has been announced, after just 3 weeks.
Yes.
So through these elections, I think he's trying to test the real popularity of the far right party, because these two elections are in a sense different, because the elections to the European Parliament, they are on the basis of proportional representation. So obviously as a percentage of vote what you get, the number of seats you get in the European Parliament. But the national elections are the 2-round elections, where in the first round, if you're not able to get 50%, so in the it goes to the second round, where any candidate which has more than 12.5% of the total number of votes can get into the second round. So still they have not got closer to the 50%, right? That's why perhaps he's trying, because after these European elections, the Marine Le Pen's party, they were saying that he must dissolve Parliament, National Assembly, and he has dissolved. So I think it's a gamble for him if he wins, because anyway his party doesn't have majority in the National Assembly. So for the last 2 years, he's facing difficulties. So if he's able to get it, he can run another 3 years of his presidency much more effectively.
Right.
But if he loses, still, his presidency is secure, but he will have a more difficulty, because in that case, he has to appoint a prime minister from an opposition party. So we'll see what happens.
Since we're talking about Macron, let's also talk about why and how, or what reasons would you attribute to Germany's support for Olaf Scholz dwindling, that has come down to 14%, and that is again behind the extreme right party?
Well, Germany again is in fact the alternative for Germany. It has been, gaining for the last many years now, and they have become a very important political force in Germany. But at the same time, still within the European Parliament, they still are not part of any group. And so within Germany itself, no political party is willing to have a coalition with them. So they have a bit of a difficulty, but in some of the regional elections, I think they are going to do well. That's what the opinion polls are saying. So there is a serious challenge, because now, if his party is in number 3 in the European elections, so obviously he's also facing difficulties here, and far right overall, because it's a broader trend, not just only in Germany and France. You look at many other countries, look at Italy, look at Finland, look at Czech Republic, you look at Hungary, you look at Slovakia, you look at Croatia, and many other countries. These are the countries where they're anyway running the government. And then you have other countries, like Sweden, Netherlands, where they are supporting the coalitions. So it means, the far right has been on rise all across Europe, and this has also been reflected now in the European Parliament per se. But in the European Parliament, still, I think the center, or I would say the progressive kind of a coalition will be able to hold, because they are more than 60%, but they will be able to create many problems, because there are issue-based coalitions, and particularly some of the issues like immigration and issues on the green transition, European Green Deal, there might be certain obstacles in the European Parliament.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Sachdeva, for putting these European elections in perspective and the interesting results also. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Let's now move on and get you some more news. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi received a phone call on Tuesday from Sultan of Oman, Haitham bin Tariq. Sultan Haitham bin Tariq extended his heartfelt congratulations to the Prime Minister of India on his reappointment as Prime Minister for third term. Sultan of Oman also emphasized the centuries-old ties of friendship between Oman and India. Prime Minister Modi thanked Oman's Sultan for his warm wishes. The two leaders reaffirmed their commitment to further deepen and strengthen India-Oman partnership for the mutual benefit of Oman and India. Ministers in the third government of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi have begun assuming offices on Tuesday, a day after they were allocated portfolios. Modi's 3.0 cabinet comprises of 72 ministers. In a sign of continuity, the top four positions remained unchanged, with Amit Shah, Rajnath Singh, Nirmala Sitharaman and Dr. S. Jaishankar retaining the Home, Defence, Finance and External Affairs portfolios respectively. BJP President JP Nadda has got the health portfolio. The cabinet's new entrants include the senior BJP leader Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who is also the former Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister, who has been assigned the Ministry of Agriculture. Ministers from the NDA or the National Democratic Alliance partners include Ram Mohan Naidu, who's got the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and Chirag Paswan, who has been allocated the Ministry of Food Processing Industries. Dr. S. Jaishankar also took charge or continued charge as the External Affairs Minister of India. He's a former diplomat. Dr. Jaishankar is a Rajya Sabha member and this is his second term as Foreign Minister of India.
It's for me an immense honor, a very great privilege to be once again given the responsibility of leading the Ministry of External Affairs. In the last term, this ministry actually performed exceptionally well. It rose to many challenges. We delivered where the G20 presidency was concerned. We took on the challenges of COVID, including Vande Bharat mission and vaccine Maitri supplies. So quite apart from the normal diplomacy, I think I really deem it a matter of great satisfaction that in the last decade this ministry under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi has become a very people-centric ministry. You can see that in terms of our improved passport services, in terms of the community welfare fund support that we give to Indians abroad, in terms of how we respond to different needs of Indians when they leave our shores or preparing to leave our shores.
DD India correspondent Jessica Taneja gets us more on this.
External Affairs Minister of India Dr. S. Jaishankar took charge this morning, highlighting that India will continue to prioritize its neighbourhood first policy, as seen during India's G20 presidency and earlier during the COVID time where India provided vaccines to a lot of nations around the world. India will continue to be the Vishwaguru and also enhance security cooperation in the Indian Ocean region. Relationship with Pakistan and China will continue to be skillfully navigated for now. Jessica Taneja with Moin Joshi in New Delhi for DD India.
Amit Shah, senior BJP leader, assumed the role of Union Home Minister for the new government, a position he also held in the previous Modi government. Amit Shah also took charge as the Minister of Cooperation. BJP President JP Nadda took charge as the Health Minister in the new Prime Minister Modi-led cabinet. He also took charge as the Minister of Chemical and Fertilizers. Former Chief Minister of Haryana Manohar Lal Khattar assumed charge as Power Minister. He has been given charge of the new ministries in the Narendra Modi-led cabinet, Power and Housing as well as Urban Affairs ministries. Former Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who was also inducted as a cabinet minister in the Prime Minister Modi-led government, took charge as Minister of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare. Akhilesh Suman, a senior editor joining us from our newsroom live to put this new Cabinet 3.0 in perspective, is joining us from the field. Akhilesh, over to you now. This is Modi's 3.0 government at the centre. How do you see this in terms of continuity, the freshness, as far as the comparison to the earlier two terms? Continuity is there. There is status quo when it comes to the top 4 ministries or the charges. And what is the agenda? What is the message that the Modi government is now, through his team of 72, trying to send across?
Yeah, it's a really very interesting cabinet, Sakal. As you told that there is a continuity, but there is a continuity and change also.
Yes.
Like if you see the 2014 cabinet, he had 45 ministers. In 2019 cabinet, he had 58 ministers, and now in 2024 cabinet, he has 71 cabinet ministers. So, cabinet and council of ministers, I mean to say. So, I think this is a persistent change according to the needs of the hour. And as far as the continuity is concerned, you know that the Home Minister is the same now. Defense Minister is the same now, External Affairs Minister is the same now, Finance Minister is the same now. So there is a continuity of policy in overall policy and implementation of the government. But in 2019, it was not the same. From 2014 to 2019, ministers in the CCS were changed. Home ministers was different. Rajnath Singh went to Defense Ministry. Amit Shah joined as a Home Ministry. So, but I will tell you, Sakal, very interesting thing in this, that there are six chief ministers in this cabinet. In 2014 and 2019, there were no chief minister other than Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself. Now there are 6 chief ministers, former chief ministers in this cabinet, and if you count Prime Minister himself, it is the 7th chief minister cabinet. And I think, Manohar Lal Khattar, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, Sarbanand Sonowal, H.D. Kumaraswamy, Jitan Ram Manjhi, and Rajnath Singh. So I think this is a very interesting change this time, that the people who know from the grassroots that what the country needs now, when India promises to be the developed Viksit Bharat by 2047. So I think this will fulfill what Prime Minister Narendra Modi vision is all, and what India is aspiring for. So I think this is a very interesting change from the earlier 2014 and 2019, Sakal.
Yes, and having said that, there are many ministers from various regions, more of a pan-India feel. How do you see the prospects of development in some of the states which were traditionally lagging behind? And with that, a quick one, the balance with the allies and the coalition partners that we see in this coalition cabinet.
You know that first thing, I will answer the second question first, because the balance with the allies is quite important, and in a coalition government you need to talk to the allies. And while forming this in a coalition, I feel that allies are on board, and enough ministerial berth has been given to allies. But you can't say that this is the stop. That in emerging situation you may have to accommodate more allies if the need requires. But till now, I think this is the situation that allies have been accommodated. But the first question, that about the regional development, that's really interesting, and I will give you just one example. The one example of Bihar. From Bihar, there are 4 ministers, cabinet minister, and if they take care of the state, they have been given food processing ministry, like Chirag Paswan.
That's right.
He has been given food processing ministry, and that Bihar is very good in food, like Hajipur ka kela and lychee of Muzaffarpur, and there are many agriculture products. Potatoes are also abundant in Bihar. So if they are converted into food processing, I think Bihar can gain a lot. And again, there is a Jitan Ram Manjhi, who was also chief minister of Bihar earlier, and he has been given to MSME. So I think Bihar needs, because there are lots of migrants from Bihar or who go everywhere in the country for jobs. So if MSME can be strengthened in Bihar, I think this minister will help. Again, Lalan Singh, who is dairy, animal husbandry and fisheries. So I think this will help. And also the Giriraj Singh textile. So I think
clear vision for Viksit Bharat
from this ministry.
A clear vision of Viksit Bharat, the continuity of the overall development agenda of the country. Thank you very much, Akhilesh Suman, for those inputs in putting Cabinet 3.0 in perspective. Thanks. And after taking charge as Minister of State for Tourism, Petroleum, Natural Gas in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's third cabinet, Member Parliament Suresh Gopi spoke to DD India's Rama Tyagi.
Sir, congratulations, sir. Today you have taken charge. What will be the priorities?
Priorities, more than priorities, I should be hunting for the untapped and the unexplored areas, which should be found out through a very harsh hunt, and then the feasibility study done. Let the Prime Minister, who has a different area in his heart for tourism India, and then look into possibilities of implementing a major share of his dream. That is my priority.
Prime Minister has set 100 days roadmap for each ministry. So tell us about that.
My cabinet minister will be responsible for that, but I will be in full mental, muscular, all kinds of support to facilitate my cabinet minister in presenting a very beautiful, generous report.
How tourism can prove as a big tool of growth engine, growth story of the country?
See, tourism India should be the main component in zooming or booming the GDP of the country. That is my intent. So I don't know to which level I may have to penetrate, given the permeability, all those are factors. So let me wait to understand the ministry more, and then the responsibility of the ministry and the capacity and the permeabilities. Let me wait.
N. Chandrababu Naidu was also on Tuesday chosen as the leader of the party in Andhra Pradesh's assembly by the MLAs of his Telugu Desam party as well as legislators of the National Democratic Alliance or NDA allies BJP and Janasena. The TDP chief is scheduled to take oath as chief minister on Wednesday at Kasarapalli IT Park near Gannavaram Airport in Amaravati in Andhra Pradesh assembly elections. NDA registered a massive win. 164 out of 175 seats, with TDP winning 135 seats. Paswan Kalyan led Janasena party bagged 21 and the BJP won 8 seats. From Andhra Pradesh, we talk about Odisha, where the Bharatiya Janata Party legislature will hold a meeting on Tuesday to elect the chief minister of the state. The BJP on 4th of June secured a majority by winning 78 seats in the 147-member Odisha Assembly. However, the party is yet to choose a leader who will be at the helm of the state. The BJP has appointed Union Minister Rajnath Singh and Bhupendra Yadav to oversee the selection of the new Chief Minister of Odisha. In other news, the Supreme Court of India on Tuesday issued a notice to the National Testing Agency seeking response to the plea seeking a fresh national eligibility cum entrance test undergraduate examination 2024 over alleged paper leak and irregularities. The court also refused to stay the counselling process for admissions in MBBS, BDS and other courses for successful candidates. The matter has been listed for further hearing on July 8th. The International Day of Yoga will be celebrated on June 21st. Shweta Janesh of Rajakad village in Idukki district is a 10th standard student who is a yoga expert. She has been learning and practicing yoga from the age of 9. Shweta says that yoga adds much to her well-being of a person both physically and mentally.
I have been contesting in state-level yoga competitions for last 4 years and expecting to contest national level next year. Through the learning, I could achieve flexibility of my body. Especially pranayam adds much to my vision. It gives a very clear eye vision. Only a person who practices yoga can understand the advantages of the art.
Shweta has received merit certificate in state-level competitions. She is also an expert in rhythmic yoga. Now Shweta can learn her lessons well as her concentration power has increased.
And with an aim to enhance skill sets of students and make them industry ready, the Gujarat University is set to launch over 40 courses to increase their employability prospects. The university is also planning to rope in foreign students, especially from the East African countries, where the demand for sports coaches and yoga instructors is increasing rapidly. DD India's Meghna Dev has sent us this report.
By the Vice Chancellor of Gujarat University, Anija Gupta ji. Thank you so much, ma'am, for talking to us. Very importantly, when we look at the employability, prospects, skill-based courses are obviously taking an upseat. What do you have to say about it?
We thought that the university students, Gujarat University students who are studying in our 300 campuses, who are pursuing the graduations, they should be industry ready. So looking into this, we had a very detailed meeting with the industry, with also Gujarat Chamber of Commerce, with many other people who are experts, the academics, the researchers, and it was a big exercise for about 2 months the university has taken up.
What are these courses? If you can elaborate the names of the courses so that...
many sectors, starting from humanities to technology to AI and to sciences. It also has astrology and Vastu. It has cyber security. It has animation. So about 43 programs.
So will it also be available for foreign students who are affiliated with the university?
That we have to follow the guidelines of the foreign MEA, but definitely we would like to send them industry ready in their country.
Right.
But that demands a survey of their country needs. And,
right.
But definitely we have already proposed. We have written to 2 embassies, especially Gambia and Rwanda. With Afghanistan, so we have very less number of students, but with East African countries, we have more numbers now. So with them, we are trying to understand what is the demand back home. Like sports coaches, they said we would need more sports coach. We would like more trainers in yoga and meditation. So those sort of programs we would definitely open up
for them. So here we had the Vice Chancellor of Gujarat University speak to us on the demand of important skill-based courses that the Gujarat University is going to commence this academic year. With camera person Lakshman Rajput, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Ahmedabad, Gujarat.
Before we wrap up, some sports news. A 15-member Indian rifle and pistol team was today announced by the National Rifle Association of India after a meeting of the senior selection committee held virtually. There were no major surprises, and women's pistol ace are now going to be the 2-time Olympian Manu Bakar would be the only athlete who would be participating in more than one individual event, the women's 10-meter air pistol and the women's 25-meter pistol. The team has 8 shooters in the rifle discipline and 7 in pistol. All of the team members, along with the coaches and the support staff, are currently in a camp in France, mainly aimed at the acclimatization and hard training before they take a 2-week break back home. And the much-awaited Season 2 of The House of Dragons premiered in London on Monday with much fanfare amid a star-studded evening. Set just days away from Season 1, the Game of Thrones prequel show unravels more world and mysteries to the viewers. The show will be telecast on Sky Atlantic and now in the UK from June 17. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.